Hi guys, how we doing? It's Christian Colson here at Ellery Christian Church. Excited to be back with you for another episode, I guess you could say, of these weekly sermons that we're doing. I forget what number we're on. I should probably go look, but I haven't yet. But still excited to be here, excited to get to show you God's Word. Even if you're not here, even if you're not in the pulpits, maybe you're at home, but I'm still happy that we can reach each other. I hope these weekly messages are giving you guys some encouragement, filling you up with the Spirit of God, and kind of helping you out throughout your week. As we go through these hard times and things feel uncertain, we know the Bible, we know God, we know Christ. They're all certain, they're all steadfast, and that's a pretty awesome anchor to have. So I'm excited to be here. Hope you're excited to watch. As I always say, if you'd normally be here, if you're an Ellery Christian Church member or you usually come here, we miss you guys, miss seeing you. Hope you come soon, hope we're able to, so we can get that kind of personal interaction that we usually do. I miss that, and I miss you guys. Me and Faith are praying for you, hoping you're staying safe, happy, and healthy. So we want to see you guys soon. If you ever need anything, you know to give us a call. If you're not from Ellery Christian Church, maybe you don't have a church. Maybe you just stumbled on this video. Maybe you just realized you're on the wrong video. I would ask you please keep watching. We'd love to have you out here at Ellery Christian Church. Sunday school is at 9:30. Church is at 10:30 approximately. We would love to have you guys here. Excuse me. If you want to see what Ellery Christian Church is all about, kind of what we do here, love to have you here. Love to build a relationship with you. Would love to show you who Christ is and what He did for you, so you can give your life to Him. Everyone here, my church family, I couldn't say it more. They're awesome people, really great people, really accepting, loving, all those great things. So if you're on the fence about maybe coming here, would like to, please come here. You won't be disappointed. I hear the pastor's not that good, but maybe you can get past that. So as always, thank you for tuning in. Now I want to kind of start out with a little illustration here. It may be hard to see because this right here I have is it's a glass cup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with water. So it may be hard to see the level of what I fill it with, but I'll tell you what I'm doing. So if you go to a restaurant, you're kind of going through the menu and you decide that you want to try to be a little healthy. And you decide that you're not going to have Pepsi, you're not going to have any of that, you're going to have water. Waiter comes, and for some reason he pours your water to about right there. Okay, it's a little bit less than half, maybe about halfway. What would you think? Would you say, okay, I'm getting gypped out of half of my water, where's the other half of it? Would you say, I guess this is why the water's free, because there's only half there? You'd probably be a little upset. You'd probably be looking around at everyone else's drinks and saying, why is mine only half full? I'm going to drink this before my meal comes out. They're going to have to keep refilling it. Why is my drink half full? Or what you'd probably say is, why is my drink half empty? Why is half of my glass empty? Now, okay, let's reverse roles here, or we go to a different scenario. Imagine you go to some tribe, some African tribe out in the middle of nowhere, where they walk miles and miles and miles a day to get their water. And some days they may not get any water at all. Now, what do you think they would do if you walked up to them and poured this glass half full and gave it to them? You think they'd give it back and say, what are you doing? This is half empty. I don't want this. No. What they'd say is, oh my gosh, thank you. This is a glass half full of water, and I'm going to drink it. See, if you were at a restaurant and someone poured this half away, you'd say, why is my glass half empty? If you were a member of a tribe that doesn't get water all the time, you'd probably say, thank you, this glass is half full. Now, it's probably a cheesy illustration, and you probably can't see it because I'm using water in a glass cup. That probably wasn't the brightest move. But it's an illustration. It's an illustration to show you that the way we view our lives has to do a lot with our attitude. The way we view our Christian lives has a lot to do with our attitude. You see, we're going to have good times in life. We're going to have friends, we're going to have family, we're going to have celebrations, we're going to have all that good stuff. But as we've talked about, yes, we're also going to go through some bad. And today we're going to talk about having a glass full attitude when we're in the midst of a tough time. Because what do we like to do when a tough time comes up? Say like the coronavirus. I know you're probably tired of hearing that word, I am too. But say, like a situation like the coronavirus, what do we do? What do we do when there's a tragedy, death of a loved one? What do we do when we don't know why some things are happening? What do we like to do? We like to say one simple word, and we like to ask God one simple word. And you probably guessed it, and that's why. We say, why, God, did this happen to me? Why, God, do I deserve to have this dumped upon me? And I'm telling you from personal experience that that's not the attitude to have. And that's not a good attitude to have when you're in tough times. Instead, I encourage you not to ask why, but I encourage you to change that why into a how. Change that why into a how. Because when you turn that why into a how, it becomes, why, God, are you doing this to me? To, how can I use this situation to show God to other people? See, what I'm telling you today is we need to start having an attitude of whatever happens to us, good, bad, ugly, coronavirus, whatever, how can I use it to show God's love to the people around me? See, I just got the courage, we talked about last week, I've been kind of battling through some things and talked about, it would maybe be helpful to go see someone and talk about those things. And today, with a little help from Faith, kind of got the courage to work through that paperwork and kind of get a meeting in the process of doing that. And I'm happy about doing that. It took, some courage for me to do that, and it wasn't really easy, but I did it, And when this first was happening, when this kind of anxiety I started getting, when it was bad, Faith was in the truck one time when I did it. We were driving home, and I asked, and I was angry, and I said, why do I have these anxiety problems? Why is this happening to me? Why do I feel bad someday? Why? That's what I would say. I say, I'm a preacher. I've given my life, at 21 years old to tell other people about Christ. So why is my reward feeling nervous and feeling anxious a lot of the time and just overall not really feeling well some days? And I'm lucky that God is a gracious God, because that's not the attitude I should have been showing to Him. You see, instead, I've kind of taken this spin, and this is where the sermons come from, personal experience. I wrote a little while ago. It's taking the spin of, yeah, I'm going through some tough times. I am. But I know I'm going to come out of it, and I know I'm going to, because number one, God's good all the time. And two, because I can use this experience that I'm going through to show God to other people. You see, I can use this experience that I'm going through to connect with people that maybe some other people can't. I have a special opportunity now to go to other people who battle with things sometimes that people say they don't have someone to go to. Well, now I'm that person that you can come to me and I can go to you and we can connect. And I'm thankful for that. Even though some days are tough, with some days I struggle with things, I'm glad God's given me this opportunity because I can connect with a lot of people that maybe sometime earlier I wouldn't have been able to. I'm happy for that. Even though some days are tough, I'm happy that I get that opportunity now. I really am. And God wants us. He wants us to view our problems in life. He wants us to view our trials with a glass half full attitude. He wants us to view our problems in life with an, okay, I accept this problem's going on. Now, how do I use this problem? How do I use this trial? How do I use this tribulation to go out and show God to other people? You see, and I'm not making this up. Everything I say, it's rooted in the Bible, and we see this time and time again in text in the Bible. I'm not lying. And if you can show me a place in the Bible where it does lie, I'd love to see it because I don't think it's in there. But the first story that I think about is that of Job. If you know the life of Job, it says Job was a really wealthy man. He had a lot of things going for him. He was a well-liked guy. This, that, and the other. He had a really good life going. And at one point, Satan was talking to God, and through conversation, God allowed Satan to tempt Job. Because Satan said, I bet I can tempt Job enough to where he'll curse you, God. And God said, no, I know Job. He's a Christian man. He's a great man. He's not going to curse me. I know him. I'll take that challenge. And so Satan begins to work in Job's life and tempts him and tempts him and tempts him. And Job starts receiving all this bad information, all these bad messages about things that's happening to him. He's lost his home. He's lost his property through natural disaster. His family, his kids have been killed. All these bad things are happening, and Job has no idea why. And so Job starts to mourn all these horrible things that happened to him. The loss of basically everything around him. The death of his family. It says he takes off his clothes and he shaves his head and he mourns. And then there's these friends of his that come up to him, and they're basically saying, well, Job, this has to be your fault. This has to be something you did to bring this on you by God. And does Job curse God there? No, he doesn't. He refuses. Even when his friends say you deserve all this, and when Job didn't do anything to deserve it, he never curses God. Yes, he was confused, and he does ask that why question in the beginning. He doesn't know why it's going on, but what's he do? He never curses God. Even when his wife tells him, she says, you need to curse God. Why is he doing this to you? What's he do? He doesn't curse him. He has all these bad things happening to him, but what does he do? He has a glass half full attitude. And that allows him to keep going. So Satan doesn't win that time. Satan loses and God wins. We know that always happens, but it's just shown there. So Satan says, okay, I'm going to try again. And God says, fine, I'll allow you to try a second time to tempt him. So then Job wakes up one morning, and he has these sores all over his body. And if any one of you have had, chicken pox, anything like that, poison oak, whatever. My mom gets poison oak so bad, so I've seen what that could be like. But you know how miserable that is, to be scratching and to be hurting and all this. Well, Job has this go on for days, right? And what's Job do? He's still angry. He still doesn't know why it's happening to him, but he never curses God. And he starts kind of contemplating all these really deep questions. He's kind of asking, if God is so good, then why do bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people? He begins asking himself these questions, but he never curses God. And he never lets his emotions get the best of him. And eventually God has a conversation with him, and Job says, God, I didn't realize how powerful you were. I didn't realize how great you are at making the universe. I didn't realize all your ways. And God was pleased by that. He was pleased that Job realized that he didn't know what all went into making the universe. He doesn't know what all goes into being a humble God. And God was pleased, and God took away that bad thing that happened to him, gave him back everything, doubled what he had, gave him more family, and that was that. But through all that tragedy and all those hard times, Job looked at his glass as half full, not half empty. And God was pleased that Job did that. And that's the first thing that kind of comes to my mind when I think about this. The next story is when Jonah, when he goes to Nineveh. We know that story. I've talked about it a lot. I think it's an important story. It's one that you hear a lot when you were a kid. Maybe it's the first Bible story you hear about Jonah and the big fish. I remember hearing that when I was young. But Jonah, he's called to go to this place and minister to people and tell them about God. But the only problem is Nineveh, it's a bad, bad place. People kill people there all the time. There's a lot of murder, a lot of crime, a lot of bad in this place called Nineveh. So Jonah says, I don't want to go. So Jonah runs around all these different places. He doesn't want to go to Nineveh. Eventually he gets swallowed by a fish and eventually finds his way in Nineveh. And even though Jonah thought, I may be killed, I may be hurt, I may be slaughtered, all these things, what he did was still go to Nineveh and still preach the gospel of God and looked at his opportunity as a glass half full, not a glass half empty. My question to you is, when you go through trials, when you go through tribulations, when you're hurting, when you're sad, when you're thinking about all these bad things, is your glass half full or is it half empty? Because that's going to determine the outcome most of the time. Most of the time. It's important to go through our trials with a glass half full attitude and show God to others when we can. That's number one. That's the important thing that we need to be doing. Because to be honest, we don't handle our problems in the best way. We don't handle our trials, our tribulations in the right way. Again, like I said earlier, we like to blame God instead of using the situation to make him visible to other people. And that's kind of a funny question you ask, because we go to church every Sunday and we say we love God and we do all these things, we read our Bible maybe, but then why do we blame him when something doesn't go our way? Well, first I would say it's because we're not good at looking at the big picture. We're not good at that. It's not, I guess, in our human nature to do that. It's not because we see circumstances as obstacles to get over. We don't really see them as chances to learn lessons to use throughout our lives. See, there's this guy, his name is Ed Ogeron. He's a football coach in college. I had to give you a sports reference somewhere in here, so here it is. But he's a football coach, and he coached first at California, and he did a fine job there. But when the season ended, they came to him and they said, Ed, you're not going to be the football coach here anymore, you're fired. And he was obviously pretty distraught at that point. He's from Louisiana and he was out in California, so he said, okay, I'm fired. I'm going to go back home and I'll probably work on a shrimp boat. I don't know what I'll do. And he didn't know where to go, and he didn't know why God was doing that to him. And he said that day he got fired from being the football coach, that was the worst day of his life, besides the day he lost his father. And his wife told him, she said, Ed, it's not the worst day of your life, it's just God opening another door. Well, I don't know if he believed her or not, but time went on and time went on and time went on. And then Louisiana, LSU, the college in Louisiana, they needed a new football coach. And they eventually hired Ed Orgeron. And this past year in January, Ed Orgeron went from being fired at a school in California to winning the national championship in his hometown in Louisiana a year later. See, Ed looked at his glass as half full, not half empty. Got fired from one job, but it led him to somewhere else, and it led him to the ultimate success in college football of winning a national championship. The first reason why we like to blame God is because we don't see the big picture. It may take days, it may take months, weeks, years, but if we trust in God and we go with His will, it's going to go our way. It's going to go our way. See, the next reason why we like to blame God when we're going through trials and when we're going through tribulations is because we don't have the best patience. We don't have the best patience. And it's a serious virtue. It's one that I would say it's an important one to have nowadays. It's an important characteristic to attain. Patience is very, very important. And in this world, patience is being lost at an all-time high. Because in today's world, patience is being supplemented with the attitude of, I want that, I gotta have that, I need that now. Look at something like TV. I think TV makes a great example for this. I guess whenever TV came out, I'm really not sure when that was, you probably had 3 or so channels. My dad was telling me about this the other day. You had about 3 channels and they were all local, right? And if you wanted to see a TV show, you had to be there. So if a special family show came on at 7 o'clock, you had to be sitting on the couch, sitting in the chair at 7 o'clock to watch that TV program as a family. If you missed it, that was it. It didn't matter. If you missed it, you had to wait till next week when a new episode came out. That was TV. Then fast forward a few decades later, and there was something magical called DVR that came out. And DVR, it was, you didn't have to be there to watch one of your favorite shows. If one of your favorite shows came on at 7 o'clock and you were going to be gone at 7 o'clock, all you had to do was hit a fancy little record button. And that show would record, and then when you got back home, you could watch it. So now you didn't really have to miss any shows. Maybe you wouldn't get it to watch the time you wanted, but you still get to watch all the shows that you want. And now, let's fast forward to the 2010s, 2020s. There are things called Hulu and Netflix. And in Hulu and Netflix allows you to watch every single show that you can imagine. Whatever show you want to watch, whenever you want to watch it, whatever season, whatever episode, with total convenience. You can watch all day, you can watch all night, whatever you wanted to do. That's Netflix and Hulu, and that's TV nowadays. You see, I think this is a great illustration of how patience has really been dialed back and used for convenience. Convenience is big now, not patience. It's what people want, it's ease. And that's kind of the world we live in. But here's a news flash, if you didn't know it, maybe some of us know it, but we don't like it. God doesn't work on our convenience, and God doesn't work on our time. And sometimes we hate that. We say a prayer, we want it answered right now, we want it answered right away, and we want it answered the way we want it to be answered. But again, God doesn't work like that, and God doesn't work on our time. And sometimes we forget that God does answer every single prayer, but there's 3 options, and we really like to only think of 2. First, He can say yes, we love that one. Next, He can say, not yet, but later. We don't like that one as much, but we still get our way. And the third one we really hate, and that's no. We forget that God can say no. But remember this, whatever He says, it's His will, and that's what's best for us. Hold on to that. That's a good anchor. God can say no, but sometimes it's for our own good. Okay? It's like when we were a little kid, again, I told the story, but I was running around in the church parking lot, And my mom wasn't too happy about that, so she took me inside and well, I probably shouldn't get into that because that's probably illegal now, but she disciplined me, let's just say that. And I didn't run in the church parking lot anymore, right? She did something that I didn't want, but it was best for me. She said no, and that was best for me. And that's the same thing with God. He'll say no sometimes, but it's our best. Even when we're saying, God, get me out of this tribulation, God, get me out of this tough time, his answer may be no. He may let you go through it longer so you can really learn something and put it to use for someone else. Now that we know what we usually act like through a trial, it's usually wrong, right? We don't have much patience. We don't see the big picture. Now let's see what we should be acting like when we're going through a tough time of trials and tribulations. See, the first thing we should do is accept the circumstance. Accept the circumstance. Because a lot of the times we like to think our lives are perfect. We want them to be. Obviously, they're not. And when something goes wrong for us, we like to sweep it under the rug and pretend like it's not happening. That's not right. That's totally wrong. See, God shows us that in life. Tough times come, and they come a lot even when we don't expect them. And sweeping them under the rug, it's the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong way of handling them. I would encourage you, don't run away from the problems that you're facing. God's allowing it to happen for a reason. God's allowing it to happen for a reason. Accepting what's going on is the way to figure out how you can conquer what you're going through. And the next step in keeping this glass half full attitude in trials and tribulations is knowing that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry a little bit. See, if you want to go to our only scripture of the day, but it's one of the most important ones, it's Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 8. Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1 through 8. You see this a lot as like a decoration piece or whatever, but it's a really awesome verse. I'll go ahead and read it. It's under the heading in my Bible of Everything Has Its Time. It's that passage. It says, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace." When I read this the first time, I didn't realize this, and this isn't even in my sermon, but let's go back to this part. Where's it at? I just had it. Okay, it says a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Think about what's going on with this pandemic right now. Even in this pandemic, when we feel like we have no control, go to Ecclesiastes 1:8. There's a time to embrace. We love to do it. But maybe right now, it's a time to not embrace. It's time to be away for a while. Even this pandemic, God shines through. That's pretty cool. That's pretty uplifting. I like that. But again, let's look in here. Not all these things are good. It says a time to die, a time to weep, a time to mourn, a cast away stones, all these things. So don't be mad and think it's not okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. There's a time for that. There's time to mourn. There's time to do all these things. It's fine. Emotion's a good thing. It helps us deal with what's going on. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be confused. It's okay to feel like you don't have any control, because in all honesty, we don't have control. But God does. The idea that I talked about last week, that emotion, people think it's a bad thing, that's a bad idea. Emotion is a good thing. It's what makes us human. God gave it to us. Just never let your emotions get the best of you. And the last way to keep this glass half full attitude when you're going through trials, when you're going through tribulations, is to stay anchored in the Word. Stay anchored in the Word of God. I don't read it enough. I don't know if anyone can say they read the Bible enough, because you need to be in it every day. But seriously, it's our anchor. It's what we need as Christians. It's how to live our life. It gives us joy. It gives us everything we need. It's time to get your Bible and seriously start reading it. A lot of the time we think that just coming to church on Sunday, it's enough to fill us up for the week with God's Word. That's not true. We need a lot more than that. You know, one time I was supposed to go to my Grandma Neil, her birthday party. It was 2 years ago, I think. And I was leaving my mom's house, being Faith, where she was with me, and my gas light came on. And I said, that's fine, I'll be able to make it to Mount Carmel from my mom's house. Well, probably 200 yards down the road, I run out of gas. My truck shuts off. I have to barely get my truck into a side road before it died on me totally. My mom, she's always telling me, and Faith's always telling me to get gas, but I always try to get the last drop out of it. And we eventually ran out of gas. So my mom and my stepdad Tony, they had to go get gas for me and bring it to my truck and fill my truck up while I sat there pretty embarrassed. But it's kind of the same thing with our Bible. You know, we think we get enough here. We think we get enough at church. But if we're doing that, we're going to run out of the Spirit by probably Wednesday. So you need to be in that book constantly. Don't ever think you get enough, because there's going to be a time that you run out. And you definitely don't want to run out. It's pretty embarrassing. So you don't want to do that. So now if you've listened to my sermons before, you probably know where this last part's going. And that's right. I'm about to ask, what happens when we start going through trials with a glass half full attitude? Well, it's a three-step process, and they're all connected, so it's pretty cool. First, we let people know who God is. Because like I've said, and we've heard this saying for years and years and years since we were really small, actions, they speak louder than words. And when you show that strength in God, that you're going to love Him, that you're going to show Him even when things are bad, people notice that. And that's how some people, they're introduced to God. Some people maybe never got to go to VBS when they were a kid. Some people's parents never took them to church. Maybe the first time them seeing who God is you going through a tough time and showing God through it. And maybe the first time they've seen God's grace in action, and that draws them in to know more. So next, having a glass full attitude in times of trial and times of tribulation, what does it do next? Well, it can help that person that's kind of on the fence about being a Christian actually give their life to God. See, some people believe there's a God, but they don't think it's worth it to give their life to Him, so they go their whole life knowing there's a God, but never giving their life and never being a Christian. And when they see your strong attitude, when they see you give your life to God through tough times, that may be enough to have them go over the edge and commit to being a Christian. And lastly, having a glass half full attitude in times of trial and tribulation can help the already living Christian strengthen their relationship with Christ. Because when a Christian sees another Christian grow, it encourages them to do so also. So having a glass full attitude doesn't just help you, it helps many others as well. Now the final question of the day, why give a sermon on having a glass half full attitude? Well, because at a time like this, with what we're going through, we can look at trials and tribulations, and this big one that we're going through, I'm not going to say the name again because I'm tired of hearing it, but how do we look at it? And one, we blame God, and that helps no one. And then the other, we ask how we can show God through this tough time, and that helps many, many people. Let me ask you one more time. When you see this glass, do you see it half full, or do you see it half empty? And if you don't like your answer, you can change it. Because as always, the choice is yours. Go ahead and pray with me. God, we're excited to be in your house, excited to be here. Even if it's just me and Faith, we're still excited to get to be in your church, get to spread your word to people that are listening. God, I just want you to know that we love you, that we know that you're in total control, and that we know even though you're going to allow some bad things to happen to us, that you do now have love, do to strengthen our relationship with you, and we'll do that. And we'll show other people you through that. And if we do it correctly, and if we give our everything to you, no matter what happens, we're going to be stronger, we're going to be better, and your will is going to be done. And that's an awesome, awesome thing. God, we love you. We're thankful for you. If anyone's going through anything that they need to talk to me, talk to Faith, I pray that they get a hold of us somehow. We'd love to talk to them, whether it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning. We'd love to talk to anybody we can. Love to have them out here at Ellery Church. Love to have a conversation with people, whatever it is. God, one more time, we love you. I pray that everyone's happy, safe, and healthy, that they have a fire for you that doesn't go out, and that they live for you. God, we love you in your name.